The economic train of Russia has finally arrived at the station, and it's the dead end. For about 3 years, I was forecasting catastrophic economic changes in Russia. I have called the changes the economic tsunami. I have coined that term. Well, I don't have to forecast any longer. From now on, I mostly observe, analyze, and inform. The tsunami has flooded Russia, and everyone is sinking. Still, not too many understand the scale of economic catastrophe. It is the worst crisis Russia has seen since World War II. And today I introduce a new series of videos here at this channel Inside Russia, and I call them Weekly Economic Reviews. These videos will document the economic catastrophe that will eventually bury everyone, both the regime and the regular folks. It's here, it's happening. Now, the economy can be analyzed at three main levels, each with its own focus and scope. They are individual level. It's also called microeconomic agents. It studies individuals, households, and businesses. Then, microeconomy studies specific sectors or markets, and macroeconomy. It studies entire national economy. At YouTube, if you want to learn of Russian economy, most likely you get reports of macroeconomic analysis. You know, the interest rate, the unemployment rate, GDP performance. These key macroeconomic indicators give us general health of Russian economy. But I think it's also important to monitor how the economic policies made at the very top influence lives of individual economic agents, regular people. And I will include these findings and analysis in my economic reports. And this is where I start with today. I had a very interesting conversation with a person I know very well. We were having a conversation, and among other things, I was asked to tell more what's happening in the economy and to give a forecast. Now, that person asking is a huge alarm for me. In the last 3 years, I was telling everyone about Russian economy, trying to educate Russians, and I was always snubbed. They were saying, hey, you know what do you know? You're not in Russia right now, things are okay. The changes are here, but they're small. We will survive, everything's fine, everything's going to be fine. And in July, I was approached for the very first time. Turns out that the person asking me was confused. In a local market where he's been going to shop for about 15 years now, major changes started happening. There were 12 food kiosks selling various foods, and 3 of them closed. There were a fairly large number of farmers, regular farmers, coming on certain days, bringing their products, dairy, meat, honey, other foods. In a few recent weeks, half of the farmers stopped coming. The selection of food has shrunk. And on top of that, food prices have gone up. So if you visit one of the farmers' markets in the city of Bataysk near Rostov, you will find exactly that. Small food kiosks run by individual businessmen are closing, and farmers stop coming to sell their products. Now, there isn't a shortage of food. No, there's simply a lot and plenty to buy, still plenty to buy. There are food stores besides the farmer markets. But people are concerned. They start seeing the changes. And no, they still aren't linking this worsening situation with what Putin is doing to Russia and what Russia is doing to Ukraine. In my next report, I will speak of food availability and the situation with stores in the large city of Rostov-on-Don. population of 1 million people in the south of Russia. Now, let's move to microeconomic level. Now, let's see how different sectors and markets are performing. I'll start with the most fundamental market of all, that is banking, the financial industry. I want to quote two biggest figures in Russian banking industry. German Gref, the head of Sberbank, Russia's largest commercial bank controlled by the state, and the head of VTB Bank, Sergei Kostin. It is also concerned controlled by the state. Gref said that right now there is a perfect storm in Russian economy. Funny how I've been saying that since 2022, and now German Gref repeats me in my words. Sergei Kostin said that many companies in Russia are not generating any revenues, therefore they cannot service their debts. That's a fancy word for paying off loans, servicing debts. So those companies are forced to get more new loans to make payments on outstanding loans. That's a road to nowhere. That's a dead end. Then Alexander Shokhin, the head of the Union of Industrial and Commercial Enterprises, said many companies in Russia are in pre-default stages. The man should know better than anyone in Russia what's happening with the companies. He heads the union of the manufacturers. According to many experts, right now in Russia, the size of defaulted loans is 3.8 trillion rubles. That information is derived from open sources. In my opinion, 3.8 trillion is only what is known right now, and the situation in reality is worse. What Russian banks are doing massively, they are restructuring defaulted loans. Instead of demanding the defaulted loans to be paid, taking the companies who default to bankruptcy courts, going after them, the banks simply give companies slack, cut them slack. They postpone payments, they create new payment schedules, they give companies, breaks. That way, they don't have to report the defaults to the central bank, and they avoid sanctions and orders from the central bank to tighten their policies. So 3.8 trillion is just a part of bad debt. In my opinion, that number needs to be multiplied at least by 2, perhaps more. But even if we take 3.8 trillion rubles in defaults, and that's a fact, that's the number that is there, confirmed by everyone. The bare minimum, this 3.8 trillion, it's already about 15% of the entire banking industry combined capital. That's enormous. This is already enough for the dominoes to start falling. And I expect them to start falling anytime soon. Now, I would like to tell you about tax collection troubles. That's another problem Russian economy is having. Before I tell you about that, I would like to take this opportunity and thank you. You, everyone who is part of Inside Russia community. Thank you for watching, liking, commenting, and interacting. Thank you for the live stream chats. Thank you for the messages, prayers, and for your love. Your support means a lot. Thank you for the coffees you have bought at buymecoffee.com, for Patreon, for PayPal. I give you a promise that despite being demonetized by Google and not earning anything from this channel, I continue my stand against Russian government, against unfairness, against the war, and continue telling you the truth. You have my word on that. Thank you. The next is the tax collection. income tax specifically. Russia's budget system is multi-tiered, consisting of three main levels or tiers: federal, provincial, or regional, and local. The provincial budgets rely heavily on large companies paying income taxes. And it looks like the train is arriving at the station and it's stopping. Despite the Kremlin changing the tax system last year, starting this year, January 1st, there has been an increase in income tax, a significant increase from 20% to 25%. Income tax collection is dropping all over Russia. Now I'll just give you a couple examples. Belgorod province, 11 billion rubles minus compared to the same period of the last year. The provincial budget deficit is planned for 13 billion rubles. In reality, with this low tax collection, the budget deficit will amount to 11 planned plus 13 uncollected taxes, 25 billion rubles. What does it mean? Belgorod province will be firing government employees, school teachers, kindergarten teachers, and doctors. Belgorod province will be spending much less for fixing the roads. I'm not talking about constructing new roads. That's not going to happen at all. Just maintaining the roads. There will be so much less funds to spend. There will be less funds to spend on the utilities, power plants, water pipes, sewage. There will be no salaries to pay federal government employees, so that have to be fired. Now, the next province, Oryol province, minus 191 million rubles in taxes collected. The same story, raising provincial budget deficit, and other provinces, they follow the suit. The same situation we're seeing in around half of the provinces at this point, and I will keep my eyes open to collect the data of what's going to happen more. Another big problem Russia is having is non-payments. The crisis of non-payments, as they call it in Russia, неплатежи. Workers don't get paid what they earned, and companies don't get paid for products sold and delivered and services provided. Why? The lack of fund. Russian government's agency called the Center for Macroeconomic Analysis has provided the data. Combined unpaid salaries in Russia have amounted to 1.6 billion rubles. In the last 12 months, unpaid salaries have increased by 340%. Half of workers with unpaid salaries are in the construction industry. Surprise, surprise. And the majority of unpaid workers are in manufacturing and in the utilities. The reason for non-payment is very simple. There's no money. No money to pay salaries and wages. And also there are non-payments between companies, and that is even a bigger problem. You sell a product and they just don't pay you for that. This very problem existed in Russia before, twice. First time in the 90s, I was growing up, and I witnessed that. Economy back then was transiting from socialism to capitalism. So this problem was easy to understand what was happening, and the reasons were right there. The situation was pretty bad in the early 90s, and then it was becoming better towards the late 90s. Then it happened again in 2020 when the country was under coronavirus lockdown, complete lockdown. Putin ordered everyone to stay home and all non-essential companies, businesses had to shut down. There also was a crisis of non-payments, but it wasn't a very long one. And the third time it's happening now. The reason is the landslide in economy, the lack of funds everywhere, anywhere you look. Imagine this. Now it's getting close to the coronavirus times in terms of non-payments. And the coronavirus, the company was just frozen, stopped. And now it's kind of getting there again. It's bad. The Center for Macroeconomic Analysis provides the data that 11 out of 37 industries have been affected. The most affected industries are coal mining, metallurgy, automotive services, pulp and paper industry, and agriculture. This indicator tells us that these industries are in most troubles, exactly what I've been saying for the last few months. And to show you how bad things are in general, I'll give you an example of an avionics manufacturer. This news is making splashes in Russia right now. A company from Stavropol, south of Russia, called Upron, stopped the operations in March. Net losses have amounted to 148 million rubles. All bank accounts have been frozen and bankruptcy procedures have been initiated. Why is this company important? Because it's the only manufacturer of semiconductor elements in Russia for military planes, including MiG-2 and others. There's literally no one to manufacture semiconductor elements in Russia for the Ministry of Defense now. But why? Why did it happen? The orders are there and there are plenty of them. Why? What the heck is going on? There's so much work. It's unbelievable. Well, the Ministry of Defense mandates to pay the price lower than it costs to manufacture, and it doesn't pay the bill. The Ministry of Defense owes a lot to Upron. It doesn't pay. Why? Because it can. There is no authority above the Ministry of Defense. And the contractor cannot refuse to supply to the Ministry of Defense at the quantities that it requires, mandates, and at the price that it indicates. Because the new laws that were made in Russia in July and August of 2022, I don't know if you remember, but I talked about it extensively. I call them the war economy laws. They don't allow to disobey the Ministry of Defense. And this is exactly what is happening right now. So this is a little bit of economic news for the week about microeconomical level. And before I move to macroeconomic level, I want to remind you that there is an incredible amount of news that comes out of Russia every single day now. And they're definitely worthy attention. To keep everyone informed, I created what I call Formula 54. Every single day, I select 9 news that I find important and make them available to patrons of Inside Russia at patreon.com. 9 news a day, 6 days a week, 54 news per week. And on top of that, there is also a short video on pressing issue every day. More than a news, less than a live stream. I call it a daily snippet. I feel it helps those who are interested to know what's happening in Russia and with Russia to find the information that is important, that matters, and cannot be found anywhere in mainstream media. Consider becoming patron of Inside Russia. I'll leave a link in the description and in a pinned comment. Give it a try. Now, on to macroeconomic level. There are two major things I'd like to talk about. First is printing press is going at full speed. The printing press increases countries' money mass. In economics, in the science of economics, it's also called money supply. It is a crucial part of the economy because it directly affects inflation, interest rates, economic growth, and overall financial stability. Money supply is like the blood of the economy. Too little and it withers, too much and it overheats. Managing it properly is the key to keeping inflation low, growth stable, and markets functioning. In Russia, money supply is far from being managed properly. Money is being printed at incredible speed. The money supply grew by 0.7 in May, 0.7% in May, almost 1%. Annual money supply growth has increased to 15.4%. 27th of May, on 27th of May was printed 200 billion rubles. On the 3rd of June, 620 billion rubles were printed. On the 1st of July, on the 6th of June, 920 billion rubles were printed. On the 17th of June, 1 trillion rubles were printed. 1,020 billion rubles were printed. And on the 24th of June, 1,090 billion rubles were printed. This rate of increasing money supply is abnormally high. This will lead to two things: skyrocketing inflation, rising prices. Well, inflation has been galloping, for the couple years, but it's going to get even worse. And the second result, devaluation of Russian ruble, the currency. Soon we will see ruble to dollar exchange rate dropping, and to other currencies too. Now, the second macroeconomic indicator is the price of oil. Well, it's not the price of oil per se, but the price of oil is the Russia's bread maker, the biggest bread maker, and it pumps Russian budget with money. Okay, so that creates export revenues. Russian oil, called Urals, is Russia's main bread maker. It was trading catastrophically low for Russian federal budget in early June. Price was around $52 to $54 per barrel. And then Israel struck Iran. The USA joined to the attacks, and the price of oil reacted by jumping to high 70s, which was very favorable to Russia. But that situation didn't stay for long. Peace was concluded, and a few days after the attacks, prices of Urals dropped again, and Urals is trading now at around $62 to $64 per barrel. Not a catastrophe, but not that great. A couple months ago, it was trading at 52 and even 50. One day at $49 per barrel, and that was a catastrophe. I will keep my eyes open, monitoring this super important indicator. To make things worse for Russian economy, recently there have been reports of decrease of quantity of Russian oil sold. 2 weeks ago, in the period of 7 days, only 30 oil tankers were loaded with 23 million of barrels of Russian oil, and that's 12% volume decrease compared to the week prior. Now, this all spells disaster for Russian budget and Russian economy. This is the tsunami. This is the perfect storm. And the news out of Russian economy, economic news, come out every single day, and they are darker and darker. And this is the first weekly economic update from Russia. There will be one every week from now on. I will make one next Wednesday, but please don't sign off yet. I have a huge favor to ask. If you liked what you just heard from me or found it educational, then you must pay for it right now. That's right, you must pay. Not with money, but with a prayer. And not for me, for children of Texas. I know some people who have been affected. Some of the moderators know them personally. So, tragedy happened in Texas, USA. Texas Hill County flooding has many people missing, including some school children. And I am asking everyone watching this to take a moment and pray for the children to be found alive and well. Please pray along with me even if you are not religious. Thank you so very much. Dear Lord, please help everyone affected in Texas flooding. Help those who are waiting for help right now. Send them help. Help those who are searching for their loved ones missing. Send them strength. Have your angels lead the efforts to find the missing. Help those who lost their loved ones in the flooding. Help with heartaches and soothe their souls. I am specifically asking to help for Mary Grace Baker, Aidan Hartfield, Ella Cahill, Joyce Baden, and Rizzi Macheka. Dear Lord, please help the rescue efforts so all missing are found alive and well. Thank you.